the sense that I don't like quizzes and exams. I don't like things that are, you know, quote unquote traditional assessment and summative assessment. I have a preference for more alternative ways of assessment, learning through activities and assignments and projects and research. So just to kind of put things in context before I jump in. Now, I know I'm not, sorry, let me recap. So basically, I'm going to be talking about different ways of approaching teaching and different ways of approaching assessment today, which is why I called it the twist. So I personally adopt a flipped classroom model, and my classes are kind of like workshops. I don't do traditional lectures. Like what I'm doing now is not what happens for the most part in my classes. I don't, you know, go through PowerPoints and just talk. I'm not the sage on the stage. I see myself as a facilitator. And it's my role just to kind of, you know, get students thinking and get students learning. It's very important, regardless of what you're teaching, what the course material is, to try to integrate 21st century skills such as critical thinking and problem solving, written and oral communication, teamwork and collaboration, especially important. And I'm sure since you're librarians, information and digital literacy, those are also very important. And also, I'm an advocate of going beyond simply putting a large portion of the class grade on exams and whatnot. I think it's very encouraging for students when you put a decent amount on participation. And participation is not just being there physically. It is all about taking part in the synchronous discussions that are happening when you have a Zoom session. They're all about participating in asynchronous activities. And there's a lot that you can do asynchronously that's very impactful for students. And because we have crappy internet, you know, opting for asynchronous activities is very good. Also, lots of group work. And what I personally do with group work is I let students color code their contribution to the group work to add a layer of individual accountability. And I also add in a layer of end of semester, you know, self and group assessment, which is basically a form that students fill out. And also, I think it's so important to go beyond the text. I mean, I teach writing. So yes, students have to write, they have to produce research papers, they have to produce, you know, technical reports. But I also include a lot of selfie videos, podcasts, animated videos, mind maps, Padlets. I mean, you name it. There's so much that you can do to get students truly engaged. Sorry. Also, it's very important to be creative while ensuring that the activities that you're doing are tied to the course learning objectives, and they focus on really building knowledge and skills which are relevant to that particular course that you're teaching. I've seen a lot of wonderful assignments. They're incredibly creative, but unfortunately they do not align with the course learning objectives, and you don't want that to happen. Like in my case, if I'm telling my students to do a selfie video, I make sure that it's about the class. For example, your top 5 tips for improving technical writing style. Or if I'm asking students to do a response as a podcast as opposed to a write-up, then I would tell them, for example, these two articles that we're covering now in class, you know, find ways of pinpointing the different views and highlighting that through the podcast. I get students to work collaboratively in groups on a Google Doc for a debate, for example. Or I get them to collaboratively create a survey or interview questions because I need to train them how to do primary research. Or I get them to do a quiz show where in that kind of format, students basically, you know, come in and they have a set of questions about the course material, and like a game show host, they ask everyone the questions, and the first, you know, student to get the answer right is awarded a point, and then we see, you know, which student has the most points and is the winner of the game show, and you know, which group had the best questions that they managed to come up with. For forum activities, again, we want to have authentic learning, but we also want it to have a fun twist. For example, in my course, I need students to be able to do a rhetorical analysis of various technical documents for the technical communication course that I teach for engineering students. And I give them very real life, you know, documents that they might encounter, but I like to give it a little bit of a creative twist. Like in this case, I adapted it to a kind of Star Wars theme. Also, I think student ownership in the course is very important. And in my case, I let students vote on certain activities. Do you want to do this? I sometimes let them select readings. I give them a choice of, you know, a certain degree of choice. For example, you know, you have these maybe four forum exercises. You can pick two of those. And overall, it really keeps students engaged. And you'll be surprised at the number of people who, you know, they just go the extra mile and they do the optional things anyway. It's wonderful to see that. Sorry, my keyboard went mad for a sec. Okay. Also, I am a big advocate of gamification and game-based learning, but it's key to note that these are two very, very different things. Gamification is basically when you take game mechanics and you adapt them to a non-game context. Whereas game-based learning, you're actually playing a physical game. And I'd like to highlight the difference now. So for example, what I've done with my courses, I've been gamifying my courses for many, many years. So what I do is I have a narrative for students. This is an example of my tyrannical shadow, you know, shadow empire scenario. And I have like names for groups, and I divide students into these groups. And then throughout the semester, the certain assignments are dubbed battles. And, you know, these battles are basically ranked and rated, and I have a scoreboard, and the group names go on the scoreboard. And at the end of the semester, a winner is basically announced. And a lot of the assignments are actually core components of the course. They're not games. It could be something like doing a literature review. It could be something like finding very credible sources. It could be, you know, something a little bit more, you know, interactive, like the quiz show that I described earlier. Whereas this is game-based learning. And let me actually, one second. Oh, sorry. Let me get out of this full screen format so that I can share this link with you. Sorry, it's refusing. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to copy this. Let me, oh, thank goodness. I'm sure you, sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my, my screen. It's refusing. Okay, break. Okay. It was refusing to let me get out of the full screen. Let me, what I'd like you to do, because there's an immense lag and we don't want you to lag. Let me put this in the chat. Amazing. If you'd like to click on this, please. I think you need just 5 minutes. I sent it to all panelists. Sorry. There we go. Sorry about that. Ta-da. All right. So click on it, please. And I think just 5 minutes to do this. Probably even less. Let me know when you're done. Just give me a sign. Are you all done? I'm waiting for like a sign that people are done. Okay, amazing. So that's basically the difference. In game-based learning, it's just a game that you have from time to time within the course, whereas gamification, it is the use of game, mechanics and great game techniques that are spread in a different way. You can even have different badges and achievements, so there's a lot that you can do with that. Okay, so I'm going to continue now. Okay. So I'm also an advocate of the inclusion of activities that drive learning while building an online community and supporting equity as part of assessment. I'm going to share with you, actually, this is why I didn't go full screen. I'm going to share this with you. This is a very cool resource with lots of community building exercises that you can benefit from. And now the chat box has disappeared. Aha, here it is. Okay. And I've actually contributed 3 things to this particular collaborative effort. Something called collaborative storytelling, which is where students are basically telling a story as a group, and each student adds another paragraph and it has to flow, and it's highly entertaining to read. Also Room 101, which is a kind of debate format where students need to argue about what they'd like to banish in Room 101, which is obviously a reference to George Orwell, 1984, and Room 101. And also something which might be of interest to you as librarians, which is the collaborative literature review matrix, where students have to find good sources, and then they put them in a matrix so that they can start working on a literature review for their proposals and their research papers. Also, I'm a big advocate of liberating structures, and we're going to be actually trying liberating structures in a bit. I'm just going to share a couple more things, and then it's going to be your time to shine. Okay. Always, whenever there are like discussion forums with questions or activities online, it's really important to think about questions that can generate multiple answers, not just one right answer, and that involve a certain level of reflection, so that there's a bit of, metacognition going on. Okay. So, also, I'm going to propose an alternative to traditional grading where every assignment has a particular grade and has a particular percentage. And at the end of the semester, 20% is for that, and 10% is for that, and 30% is for that. And the alternative I'm suggesting is something called contract grading. And contract grading is basically envisaged to overcome the inadequacies of traditional grades, especially when there are issues of equity and the challenges of learning online are taken into account. It really encourages engagement as well. And basically, in contract grading, what you do is you tell students specifically what they should expect and what they shouldn't expect. You tell students what the default grade is for the particular course. And then you give them an explanation as to what happens if they don't meet these expectations to get that default grade. You tell them that, say, if you want to get an A or an A plus, you need to achieve this. Or you explain to them, if you miss X number of little assignments, or you don't hand in blah, 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 then you end up getting a C or a D or an F. So it's a way of having, let's say, a contract between you and students to let them know if you achieve the basics in the class, but with quality, obviously, not like, just submitting randomly. You meet, the base. Oh, there's a raised hand. Please go ahead.
Fida, you can talk. I turned your microphone on. Fida, would you like to make a comment? You have to unmute your mic. I think we can come back to that during the question answer
Q&A. Yeah. So in contract grading, as I mentioned, you can read a lot about it. It's becoming very popular because instead you are basically assessing students based on their performance throughout the semester, not just on a couple of assignments. So it's really, it encompasses everything. And what's nice about it is it really opens the door to letting you give students real, authentic feedback that focuses on improving the content of their work and enhances whatever skills you need them to enhance. Like in my case, it would be style, tone, voice clarity. It really rewards engagement and it rewards effort, and not it doesn't discount those. So it's a very interesting approach. And if you Google contract grading, you'll have many examples of grading contracts available, in addition to lots of literature about it. Yes, please, go ahead, Fida.
Fida, you need to unmute your mic so that you can ask your question or make your comment. I think Fida is facing some technical issues.
Problems, yeah.
Yep. Maybe you can write your comment in the chat box, Fida. Okay. Yep. Okay, Jasmina, please go on.
All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you all the opportunity to actually experience some liberating structures. So we're going to be trying out a few. So let's start with the first, which is a quick and easy one. So we're going to start with Mad Tea, which is also called Chatterfall, that has various different names as well. And we're trying out the text version. There's a way of doing this in breakout rooms, and you have students jumping from breakout room to breakout room. So in Mad Tea, you ask a question, then you give students a minute to type the question, and then you count to 3. Once you've counted to 3, you tell everyone to press enter so that they can send, their what they've been typing into the chat. And then you discuss the answers that students have shared. We're going to try this now. So my question to you is, what type of assessment do you prefer the most and why? Are you a fan of quizzes? Are you a fan of essay questions? Are you a fan of research projects? Don't send it yet. I'm gonna give you a second to write, and then I'm gonna count to 3. And once I say 3, you can press enter. I'm sorry, it's been a long day. I'm trying my best, but I'm zoomed out, you know.
You're doing very great, Jasmina. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. So this is an example of MAD-T. And as I mentioned, in MAD-T, normally you can ask like very, you know, complicated questions. You can, you know, go all out. You can have like, do this, you know, question after question after question after question. And then as you see, you can go through the comments. Students can see what other students are asking. Answering, and it's a nice way of doing a quick mini assessment on the fly even. So we have we have a preference, it seems, for research papers and research projects. I love them too. Some people like quizzes as well. Okay. So now we're going to try another kind of liberating structure, which is spiral journal. Okay. In spiral journal, it's an opportunity to really reflect on, you know, something. So I'd like you to grab a pen and paper, please. I'll give you a second to grab a pen and paper.
We grab the pen and paper. Yeah.
Very cool. So what I'd like you to do is just for 2 minutes, slowly draw a spiral. Keep the spiral nice and tight, but don't let the lines touch. And just gently draw your nice tight spiral in the center of your paper and divide the paper into 4 like this, like we see on the screen.
بدي اقعد اعمل انا بدي اخذ صور print screen.
I think you've been spiraling enough. Let's move on. All right. So now in one of your 4 corners, right, I'd like you to write down your answer to this question. What is your biggest challenge when teaching? Or if you haven't been teaching, what do you think will be your biggest challenge while teaching? While you do that, I have to log out and log in, I was told, right? Because we're having some technical problems. So I'm going to quickly stop sharing